Welcome to the Hey Soul Sista podcast, where Mel Histon will guide you through life's big questions and bring you one step closer to doing this crazy journey as best you can.
Hey Soul Sisters, I'm so thrilled to be doing today's episode with the fabulous Lisa Gill. Hey Lisa, how are you going?
Well, thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes. Look, I love Lisa. Lisa's been on Hey Soul Sista before, sharing her story, which is one of our most popular episodes. Can you believe that, Lisa? It was Lisa's story of, the name of the episode was How to Rebuild After Losing It All. And Lisa was very candid, telling her story of literally losing it all during the global financial crisis and rebuilding herself. And one thing that I love about Lisa is that I see her transform, change, and grow her life, especially after going through that devastation. And she just has such a wonderful outlook on life. And I see the impact that wonderful outlook, and we call it mindset. But you're somebody who has such a wonderful mindset from the outside looking in. And I really see how the positive impact that has. And I think all of us want to live our best life, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all want to live our best life, being happy, joyful, successful with whatever that is for you, because success is different for everybody. And so following on from that episode that we did, it was actually a couple of years ago, but I think it's in our top 3 most listened to episodes on Hey Soul Sista. I wanted to get Lisa back because your life has changed so considerably since that story, that time of your life. And you're somebody who is doing amazing things, and you're now sharing that with the world. So Lisa, can we just do a little bit of a recap? So we're talking today about mindset, how we perceive the world, mindset, and how we master that mindset. So Lisa, let's go back though. Do you mind just doing a recap of your story?
Oh gosh, it took me probably maybe about 2.5 to 3 years to listen to that podcast, listen to it back.
I know, that's really funny. Literally, one day on social media in the last 6 months, Lisa shared out she'd finally listened to the episode we recorded a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Do you know, it was actually nearly 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe 3 years ago at least, because I remember it was before we actually moved into our new home that we're now in, and we've been there for 3 years. So it was while we were building that. So when we last spoke, I was coming out the other side of, going through complete financial ruin. We lost everything. We had 2 businesses on the Gold Coast during the GFC, and through no fault of our own. So we had just worked our backsides off, been nice to everyone, done all the right things, and decisions that were made on the other side of the world affected our small little business on the Gold Coast, and we had to walk away and start again.
You were living an amazing Gold Coast life.
Yeah, we were. We had our beautiful home, big Queenslander that looked out over the hills, and we were out of town a little bit, so we weren't in the mess of it all. It was just, we had the best of both worlds. We had our beautiful family. But you know what? Probably the biggest lesson I took from losing it all was that the money isn't the most important part of life. That's not what we're here to experience. We're here to experience joy and love and relationships. And so the fact that we had our family at the end of it was the most important thing, and that was my starting point from that point forward.
Yeah. And for anybody who hasn't heard that episode, Lisa went from the Gold Coast, living this wonderful life with a couple of businesses with her husband, very successful, to, again, losing everything and moving to Muswellbrook.
I'm from Muswellbrook. I was born in Muswellbrook. So I thought I knew what I was getting myself into, although it looks very different now to what it was like 40 years ago when I was there as a child.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Muswellbrook's a lovely place, but it's like a country town out in the back of the Hunter Valley.
Do you know what? It's not really even a country town now. It's a transient mining town. So when we moved back there, we moved back so that my husband could get a job in the mines, and I ended up working in a mine as well, can you believe? But it was the best thing we ever did, because sometimes you have to do those really hard things to hit reset. So we did. We ended up back there. So we had the 2 boys. I think Andy was 3 and Rex would have been 7 at the time. But I remember going to a conference in Las Vegas, and I was sitting in Las Vegas, and someone said from the stage, out of all the amazing things that I've accomplished in this world and everything I've been able to do in my business, it's setting the example to my children that anything is possible and the world is their oyster. And that has been the biggest gift from being in business. And I sat there and I thought, oh my God, my kids aren't going to learn that being in school in Muswellbrook. I need to take them somewhere bigger where they're exposed to more and can meet more people and have different opportunities. And so I literally walked out of the auditorium where I was in Vegas and I rang my husband and said, we're moving to Newcastle. And he just went, what? But I just thought, without uprooting too much of our life, it's where I could go to still expose them to more and be out of that little small town mindset. But, you know, Wayne could keep his job and we didn't have to move too far away.
And you had lost your home. So you literally had lost everything. You were just you were living on mattresses on the floor in the beginning in a rental place in Muswellbrook. And your dream was to have your own home again.
Yeah, that's what drove me. And for the first few years, I was driven by, you know, looking back at it, it was kind of a little bit of ego. It was like, I just want that nice home again. And I don't like that I don't have my nice car and I can't afford nice things. And it was the material things in the beginning. But then when I started the journey on building my own businesses again and coming back mentally from that anguish that we were in, because it was just the messiest I've ever been emotionally and mentally, I had to find something deeper that was going to drive me to be uncomfortable and to jump into opportunities again and to not let that fear get in my way. And so I built everything I did around giving my boys their own bedroom again. Because growing up, we moved a lot. A lot of my fears around money and what I manifested that happened in our life is what was in my subconscious. I watched my parents struggle owning their own businesses as a child. So I had this money mindset that was really scarcity and lack. I had this fear around owning your own businesses. So I had so much I had to address. But if I could tap into a vision of just my boys, because family is my core value, family comes first. And so I just imagined walking with my boys, putting them into their bedroom again and saying, this is yours, it's here for you forever to come back to no matter what. That's what drove me in my business.
Wow. So let's talk about mindset, because you touched on when you were in Las Vegas and you heard that person speaking from the stage. And what she was talking about is, I guess, is mindset.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what is mindset?
Well, mindset is everything. It's your perception of your thoughts and your feelings as well that you put with those. So that comes from every experience we've been through, growing up as children, any traumatic experience we've been through in life. So it's your perception of your thoughts and then the feelings you put behind it. And that's what manifests in your life. That's what shows up in your reality around you. So learning to master your mindset is catching every thought as it comes in to make sure that we're checking the feeling that's behind that. And is it a thought that's actually working for you, or is it a thought that's working against you? So often when you've been through heartache and trauma and, you know, what we went through financially, I got stuck in this negative thought pattern. Everything just kept reinforcing that we've lost everything and we're going to lose everything again and we'll never come back from this. There was so much angst around it. I had to learn how catching my thought and choosing a different thought pattern, a different thought pathway could change what showed up in my world around me.
Yeah. So I love this story. I've seen it on YouTube. It's a Wayne Dyer video, The Power of Intention. Look it up if you get a chance. He's got so much good stuff in that video. It goes for quite a while, but he shares this story. Now, he tells his story in the first person, so I'm going to reshare that story in the first person like he would. So the story goes, I was walking down Dixon Park Beach one evening and I was standing there looking at the ocean and I saw a woman walk past and she stopped to stare at the ocean as well, and we started having a chat, and she said, I've just moved to this area. I came from Muswellbrook and I've only been here a few weeks and I'm just trying to find the lay of the land. And she said to me, what's it like here? Living in, Newcastle. And I went, well, what are the people like where you come from? And she said, I find the people where I come from in Muswellbrook, they're really lovely and friendly. And I really enjoyed the community there. And then she said, what are the people like here in Newcastle? And he went, the same as where you come from. And then the next night, the story goes, I was standing over at Bar Beach, looking out at the ocean, enjoying the evening, and another woman walked past and she said, stopped and had a look at the ocean as well, and we were standing there just chatting, and she said that she had just moved from Singleton to Newcastle. And I said to her, what are the people like where you come from? And she said, oh, well, do you know what? The people where I come from, I found that I didn't really like them. They were not very friendly. Actually, people could be quite confrontational, and I really didn't enjoy being part of that community. And she said, what are people like in Newcastle? And he said, yeah, the same as where you come from.
Mm. You know, Wayne Dyer, it's funny you share a story from him, because he's what started me on my journey to figure out my mindset and to get my life back on track, basically. But what you look for is what you see.
Yeah.
And that's both in terms of, we can do that like in our intentions, but it's also quantum physics proves it. Scientists, if they go looking for a wave, they see a wave. If they go looking for a particle, they see a particle. They're looking at the same thing, but they're choosing to look for something different. So we have that ability with our thinking and our mindset, is what we go looking for is what you'll see. So if you have a thought pattern ingrained in you that is, it's hard, especially in business at the moment. So business is tough. That's what people are saying. If you keep planting that, you're going to feed that thought process, which means that every proof around you becomes, it's hard out there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you choose to think a different way, like through lockdowns and everything that we've been through, a lot of people were worried about business, whereas if you could think of, hang on a minute, I know that in downturning economies, when the uproar has been there in so many different times in this planet, there's people that have thrived in business. So all of a sudden you see proof of that. So we have what's called a reticular activating system in the back of our brain. And it's a filter. There's so much information out there that it doesn't all come in. That filters out what gets through, and it's filtered by what your core values and your core beliefs are, and they start with your thoughts. And what's happened in the past becomes a thought, and everything that happens, you just keep planting more memories into that same thought pattern until we catch the thought, and then we think, hang on a minute, I can actually create a different way of thinking. There's a term called neuroplasticity of the brain, and you get to create brand new physical structures in your brain depending on how you think. So you don't have to be stuck in one way of thinking your whole life, and that is mastering your mindset.
And how cool is that?
Amazing.
But it's being aware of it, isn't it?
It is, exactly. So most of us, we have 3 levels of consciousness, basically, where we talk about a thought. And if you want to go and read up about neuroscience and thought patterns, Dr. Caroline Leaf is my go-to. She's a neuroscientist. She's a communication expert as well. And she helps understand what a thought is. So when something happens in your life, you have a memory and you put a meaning behind that. So her description of the mind is, or thought is, a mind in action. So it's thinking, feeling, and choosing. And when you think and feel and choose, you plant a thought pattern in your brain, and it takes up physical space, and you can see it like a tree. So in your non-conscious mind, when the very first time that you had that thought or you had that experience, it's rooted in your non-conscious mind. So they're the roots. And then the branches and the leaves you see at the top is your conscious brain. So it's only going when we're awake. It doesn't work when we're asleep. But it's the way you act, it's your communication, it's the words, it's your movement, everything that we see on the surface. And then your subconscious mind links the two together, and they're the underlying feeling that you get. When sometimes you get a little bit sad or stressed, and you think, I don't know what's going on here. Oprah Winfrey says, listen to those whispers, because if you don't listen to the whispers, your body's going to scream at you and your mind's going to scream at you. So we get stuck in the conscious thinking. It's just automatic. We often don't take the time to stop and think, well, why am I thinking that way? Why am I responding that way? And everything that happens just goes into that. If you think of it like a tree, just goes into that thought pattern, and we just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it, and whatever you feed will grow. So if it's a negative thought pattern, and every experience we have, we just keep automatically sending it up that same thought process, we're just going to feed sometimes a negative thought that isn't actually serving us anymore.
It comes down to a lot of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
And actually, as you say, catching yourself in the moment.
Yep. And they say that our conscious brain is 10 seconds behind our subconscious. So you have to sit in a thought for long enough to go, where did this come from? And how is it making me feel? And then you can only, that neuroplasticity that we talk about, when you can change those structures, those thoughts in your brain, only comes when you go down to the non-conscious level of the brain. That's when it's malleable. That's when you can change a thought process.
Yeah. And there are so many things that impact that neuroplasticity and our wiring in our brain. Things that have happened to us or with us or for us our entire lives.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because it's one thing I talk about. I've talked about to some of our women at Got Your Back Sister. So if you don't know, Got Your Back Sister is the charity I run, and we help women who've experienced domestic violence. And sadly, many of the women that we see have experienced abuse or trauma in various forms. And often, and I experience this as well, often we'll get that thought, feeling, emotion, that trigger, and we don't actually understand where that came from. And really, I've learned the key is having the self-awareness to stop and go, hang on, what's going on here? What triggered that thought, feeling, emotion? And we talk to our women about that, about being able to catch yourself, because if you do, that's when you can change it. That's when you can consciously go, okay, I can see I'm thinking this way. This impacted me. And then you can put strategies in place to actually change that.
And we often get stuck with these thought patterns that aren't even our own. So from growing up as children, we get told a certain thing by parents, by people around us, and we're children. We don't contest anything. We just believe that to be absolutely true. So you could carry your entire life a belief about something or a truth that isn't actually true. And so it's until you actually have some time and take the time to just sit, and it's not even just as a thought comes in. That's why journaling is so amazing, because you can just go deeper and go deeper and go deeper. But you also just have to look at what's showing up in your life. So if you haven't got to the point yet where you're catching negative thoughts, or and you're not in the process of stopping that, have a look at what's showing up in your life, because the way you think is the way you feel, and the way you feel sets your vibration and your frequency, and that's what's attracting whatever is in your life to you. So it's kind of where I've moved to in the space of the last few years, and just this last 12 months I've started mentoring women in business specifically, because mastering your mindset is what's going to determine your success in business and what shows up around you every single day. And to master your mindset, we have to go back and have a look at, well, what do I really believe to be true about me, about success, about money, about leadership, all those things. You have to go and really have a look at what you believe to be true. So I'll share an example, and I'll try and pick the best one to share with you.
I'm sure you've got lots of examples.
Oh my gosh. But, well, you know what? I was just sharing the story earlier. So when as you just said, I grew up in Muswellbrook. So I was born in Muswellbrook. My dad worked in the coal mines back then. So, coal miners earn good money. They earn great money. So we were a family of six of us children. My mum had triplets, and she had the triplets when my brother was 10 months old. So she had 4 babies under one.
Oh, dear Lord. Go, Mum.
So life was chaotic. And my dad just decided, so great income, we had our own home, great family, everything seemed to be going great. He decided that he no longer wanted to work for someone else. He wanted to be his own boss. So he moved our entire family to Byron Bay.
Wow, that's a big move.
A big move. And all of my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, our whole support network was in Muswellbrook. And so we moved to Byron Bay. They sold the house. And so I was 7 at the time. And so immediately I just felt so alone. So I had that happening. I remember sitting on my bed looking out of my window over the hills. It would have just been to Bangalore. And thinking that must be where Muswellbrook is. If I can just go and get over that hill, I can get back to Nana and Popo and my cousins. So that was happening. But then from that point forward, my parents struggled financially. So they brought this tiny little takeaway food shop in Byron Bay, and then sold the house we had in Muswellbrook to completely rebuild the shop front and make it this huge big shop with a couple of shops in there. It's still there. It's on the main road when you drive into Byron Bay.
Oh, cool.
And, growing up in Byron Bay was beautiful, but we moved house constantly.
Yeah.
And because we were always renting, because they'd sold the house to put it into the business. And then Dad was working 7 days a week in the shop. So poor Mum's at home with 6 kids. And so we did it for a couple of years. And Mum just said, that's enough. So Dad sold that business and then started a new business. And it was in the construction industry, just selling garage doors to new builds. And so he started that business, and we're still moving house constantly. Hence why giving my boys their own bedroom was what drove me. I just wanted them to have their safe place. But they never really recovered financially. They never owned their own home again. And not only that, the building industry in the Byron Bay area kind of downturned at one point, so Dad's business had to go bankrupt.
Wow.
So I had grown up with financial, not hardship, because we didn't go without as a family. We didn't have a lot, but we never went without. but I saw the emotional toll that played on my mum and dad. And so we went through the teenage years and it really continued. They had to go bankrupt a second time, actually. They'd started another business that didn't go well, an outdoor furniture business. And so they obviously weren't built to have their own businesses. And so I'd seen that growing up. So when we lost everything, I just thought, wow, God, this has happened to us now as well. And then I started doing a lot of this work. So Wayne Dyer was where it started. And so I went looking then for something I could do to learn how to master my mindset. I knew that there had to be something in there.
So because you grew up with that impacted how you saw the world, how you saw money, how you saw business.
Well, I didn't know it.
Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. That's what, and a lot of people don't know that.
No.
Because they're unconsciously just kind of going around living their lives, not really understanding how that
conscious brain.
Yeah,
exactly.
How they view the world is actually through a lens of all these experiences and how it's impacted their mindset.
So I went looking for a mindset coach. I thought, I need to fix this. There's something in me. Actually, the very first thing I ever did was I started to read a lot of books. And so I read a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. I remember still the moment. It was a pivotal moment because I was sitting up in bed and I was reading, and it was the first time I'd ever known the concept of you have the power to choose how you think. I was like, really? I didn't know that.
You have the power to choose how you think.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
It is. And so I still remember the exact position I was sitting in. I was pregnant with Andy at the time. I was like, oh my God, so I don't have to believe the same things my mum and dad believed. I can be my own person. So that was years before we lost everything. So then after we'd lost everything and I'm trying to rebuild, I found a mindset coach, and he was the one. We were doing some deep diving one day and he said, can you just tell me again where you live and what your husband does? And I said, we live in Muswellbrook and my husband works in the coal mines. He said, okay, so we know that the last time you felt safe and secure as a child was when you were living in Muswellbrook and your dad was in the coal mines. We know that you watched your parents go through complete and utter financial hardship and they went bankrupt owning their own business. We know that you've lost everything and you're living in Muswellbrook and your husband's working in a coal mine. Can you not see how you've manifested this? And I just went, oh my God, because he said, you're doing it anyway. Why not be intentional about this? So that was where my true mindset journey started. And ever since then, I've just been obsessed with mindset and kind of marrying the two together then. Well, we hear that word all the time, manifestation.
Yeah, and it's almost a little bit like a cliche now, isn't it?
It is.
Manifesting and even, mastering your mindset. They're kind of phrases that we see all the time, but there's a real science there.
There is.
And sorry to interrupt. We actually need to do that to live our best lives, to live the happy, joyous life that we want to live. Because if we don't do that and we get caught up in the negative view of the world, the negative perception and mindset, we're never going to live that happy, joyous life.
Yeah.
If you go around thinking that the world, for example, is a hostile place, that people are unfriendly, that they're not trustworthy. Yeah.
And even if you don't have a negative thought pattern in place, if you're neutral, that's all you're going to get. So why not learn how to harness the power of your mind? Because what you think, you feel. What you feel sets your vibration. Your vibration is what's your magnetic energy attracting things to you. So manifestation came more about, I'll teach you how to manifest $1 million. It's like, how about we manifest joy and peace and calm into your life? What does that look like? Well, for me, financial peace and calm was owning my own home again, never having to stress about paying a bill, and having extra to go and do wonderful things and travel. And it wasn't that I set $1 million price tag on something or I wanted to amass this wealth and fortune. It was the feeling of peace and calm. So every single day for years, I would meditate every morning, not on the things I wanted, the feeling I wanted to feel.
I love that.
It starts with your thinking though. So knowing that you have the power to change your brain structure, you have the power to choose to create a completely different thought pattern. Whatever you water grows. So we want to be really conscious with our thinking so that we can make sure we're only watering the thought patterns that are actually serving us in a good way. We've got to stop watering the bad ones and they'll die off.
Want to save your soul? Review us on Apple Podcast.
Okay, what are some of the strategies or techniques, things we can do to actually rewire some of that negative thinking?
Well, the first thing is taking time to catch yourself. So when you're feeling an emotion, so the subconscious mind talks to us through feelings. So when you're feeling a certain way, if you're thinking something and you start to spiral out of control and you go down this rabbit hole, it's like, stop. I need to reset this. So it's being really aware of your feelings that are attached to a way you're thinking. And the feeling might come first. So you might be feeling something and think, okay, where is that coming from? And it's actually taking the time to sit at that moment and think and just go a bit deeper each time. And it's what we don't do well because life is so busy. And you have an automatic response to everything that happens in your life unless you choose to stop and be really intentional with the way that you think. So the first part is just stopping when a thought comes into your brain and thinking, okay, do I want to send this on a good pathway or a bad pathway? And you can't do that with every single thought. We have trillions and trillions of thoughts in our brain. The ones when you get that subconscious feeling, it's like, hang on a minute, let's just stop and process this. But honestly, journaling is huge. And journaling, isn't just sitting and writing about what happened in the day. It's just let stuff out. But if you really want to figure out, so the core of the thought in your non-conscious brain, that's what sets your core values and your core beliefs. So if you really want to figure out what is my core belief about myself, then sit with that and go, what I believe to be true about me is, and just keep writing. Keep writing over and over and over again. So for me, getting back to my story, which I don't think I finished around money as well, was when I did this process, I sat and I thought, what do I really believe to be true about money? And I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing. And in the end, money makes you a bad person. And money, you have to work really, 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 really hard just to make ends meet. They were my two big beliefs around money.
Yeah. So, of course, it's going to impact how you live your life and how you work and how you create wealth.
Yeah. It controls everything. Everything, because it not only controls your thoughts and what you do, as I said before, that reticular activating system only lets in information that supports your core beliefs and your core values. So until you know what they are, the information's just coming in. So if I'm thinking to myself, you have to work really hard just to make ends meet, and someone offers me a business opportunity that doesn't take a lot of hard work, I'll think it's too good to be true. No, because it doesn't support my belief about money. Belief about myself. My belief about myself was, and this voice still comes into my brain every day and I have to quiet it, is, who do you think you are? And that's my mum trying to keep me humble. So she was coming from a good place. Being asked to be on the podcast with you the first time, it's like, why would anyone want to listen to me? Who do you think you are? Starting my own coaching business. Why would anyone want to hear what I have to say? Who do you think you are? What do you have to offer the world? My core belief was, well, you're nothing special. And that came from just I can give you all the instances. I got selected for a netball team 2 years, a rep netball team 2 years above my age group. And I was like, yeah, I'd love that. My age group isn't always that challenging. Well, mum pulled me aside after that and said, who do you think you are? No, you play in your age group with your friends. And so she wasn't in a bad way being mean. It was just her trying to keep me humble.
Well, that was her mindset.
Exactly. So I
don't
believe,
shine.
Exactly.
Don't be too big. Don't do too well.
And she was never allowed to shine because the way she grew up was not nice. And so she was doing only what she thought best. But yeah, I took on her belief that you never shine.
And do you know what? That's something that I've seen women do to other women, and I really hate it. The whole, who does she think she is? Yep. And because it's their stuff. When somebody says that about somebody else, it's actually their stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're not feeling like they're living to their potential, or they're not feeling great about themselves, or that's their view of the world. And I go, it's actually awful.
Yeah. But you take that on and believe it to be true, and it becomes a thought that then is a structure in your brain. And so everything automatically, just all these memories just start building up around this thought process. And until you learn to, hang on a minute, is that actually what why is that? Why should I not shine? Yep. Until you start questioning your core values and your core beliefs and checking the feeling that you're putting out there, nothing's going to change. So you could start a business tomorrow and you could be thinking, oh my God, why am I starting a business in this economy? What's happening? And every bit of information that your reticular activating system lets in will reinforce uncertainty, doubt, fear. Or you could start a business and think, so many other people are thriving. There's people out there that still have the income to spend with what I have to offer. And then all of the information that you see in your day will support that belief.
I'm just going to share something. A few years ago, I was blindsided by a couple of women. Yeah, I was really blindsided by them who, without any warning, were really awful to me. And absolutely blindsided me. I didn't see it coming. I went and had many sessions with my mindfulness guru, Charlotta, over it. But because it was interesting that changed my mindset, my view of people, that they were not trustworthy.
Yeah, right.
It really impacted that. And I've had to do a lot of work around that people are, and that not everybody is untrustworthy, because that became my lens, my view of the world. People are not trustworthy because if these women, couple of women could blindside me like that, anybody could. It really, and I go, I didn't want to live like that. I don't want to go through the world being mistrustful of people and it's like that whole fight or flight, being constantly on alert. It's being hypervigilant, being constantly on alert whether people are going to blindside me again and whether I can trust them. So I've had to do a lot of work around that, which has been interesting. But it's also, but I've had to do it because I don't want to live my life like that.
Well, and until it's so great that you know what that did to you, because if you were thinking that way, that I can't trust people, that's what's going to show up all around you still.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you look for. What you're thinking is what you look for. What you look for is what you see.
And then you look for evidence, and then that just reinforces that belief, and then you go down the whole rabbit hole.
Exactly. So once you're aware of that, that's a lot of the time people become aware of where it started, but they still don't put anything in place to fix it. So it's then creating a different belief and thought pattern. So a belief is built after just constantly feeding a thought pattern. So it's choosing to think differently and then constantly feeding that thought pattern so that we look for evidence to prove that one correct, not the old way of thinking.
So, Lisa, tell us where you're at now.
Oh, goodness. So 4 years later, I thrived through lockdowns. I don't know. I hear so many people that hated it. And of course, here in Newcastle, we weren't subject to as many and as long as other places, but I loved the family time, and I actually was able to focus so much on this again. I went right down rabbit holes and just learned and studied all about mindset and built my businesses. I now have 3 different businesses, and one of them is now coaching and mentoring women with their mindset, so women in business. I am just so passionate about teaching women that what we can do on the inside is change thought patterns, change core beliefs, change values, so that you get to thrive in business. And when we fix everything on the inside, it changes. Joe Dispenza talks about our field around us. Well, our field comes from our feelings, and our feelings come from what we're thinking. So we can go to work on the inside and fix everything, and then we can go to work on the outside to change our vibration and our energy with how we show up in the world. And you really can have it all.
So, Lisa, if people are interested in learning more from you about mindset, or they might be interested in learning more about you as a mindset coach, and I love that you shared that you had your own mindset coach.
Absolutely.
That actually really helped you to get through that really difficult financial time in your life. Where can people find you?
lisagill.com.au. So I was just last year, I've had people begging me to do this, and I've just said, no, not interested, not a coach, not a mentor. There's so many out there, not my thing. And something just shifted last year. I just felt that it was time that I've seen so many changes in my life that I thought, I have to share this. I have to share it. But from a feminine space. And my coach was a male in the US. So it was very male-orientated, dominated energy. And it was like, I need to do this from a heart space. And I need to do it in just a really loving way that's not just mindset. I want to teach you that there's so much out there in terms of energy and quantum physics, and marry the two together so that you can truly believe, you walk away with a knowing that you can create whatever you want to create in your life.
Yeah, which I know for me is a soulful, joyful, happy life. That's all I want.
Yep. Mine is
that's all I need.
Peace and calm and travel.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Lisa. And Soul Sisters, if you want any more information, just reach out, email me info@thesistercode.com, and go and look up that YouTube video, Wayne Dyer's The Power of Intention, and he's got so much good stuff there. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to Hey Soul Sister with Mel Histon. What would help you on your crazy life journey? Email Melissa at thesister soulsisterco.com.